Well, it was safe to say I was the only white guy in the theater. Did that bother me? Absolutely not. But I'm watching Knees Out in 3D, the second one. Is it better than the first one? It sure is 30 minutes longer, though. Does that make a difference? Let's find out. Chase Lehocky here at the Blue Futon reviewing Knees Out 2 3D right now. I was going to say 40x, but it wasn't 40x, so it's just like an idiot, Chase. Just shut up and talk about the movie. Anyway, it is right after the first one, same exact characters, that they bring a couple new people, if you want to put it that way, about the Grand Master in the sky and a couple of the demon hunters, but majority of the cast is here, right? All right, I don't know why I'm stuttering right now, but anyway, 3D, pleasantly surprised. After watching back-to-back 3D, watching Captain America, Brave New World in 3D, and this in 3D, yes, totally different. One's live action with CG, and this one's a full-fledged CG/animated feature, and I'll say it works. The pop-out effects were pretty dang good. The depth effects were pretty good, and just the overall experience, it did feel like I got sucked into this world with the 3D effects. On the theater I went to, they only had one showtime. It was actually kind of funny with the people in the line. It was like everyone was in one row, just one, and a bunch of people at the bottom row. But I'm actually kind of shocked that this is probably going to be number 5 in the box office. I was just predicting it to be like more number 3. But Heart Eyes is doing absolutely fantastic. But that's a different conversation. But 3D, if you could find it and you have a choice of spending that $3-esque surcharge, I do recommend doing 3D for this movie because it is worth it. So this movie itself, sequels, right? You expect bigger, badder, crazier, longer, and just more fun. And I'm going to say I had yes, and yes with the second one. Just because it expanded on the story, expanded on the lore, expanded on the characters and their developments and where they are going to be in the third one. Listen, if you're like, you're spoiling the movie saying there's going to be a third one, bruh, it's been in China for like 2.5 weeks and made over $1 billion. If you don't think this is going to get a third movie, you are on some crack cocaine. The question is, though, I don't know how China does it with like their state media and how they get paid. I wonder if the director is going to get an extra pay bump. I don't know how that works. We'll see what happens. But anyway, voice acting, good. The humor is still there. I say for the humor here, it was hit and miss, though. So let's talk about the humor as a whole. It was good. I think they did tone it down a little bit from the first one. Yes, there is still a lot of kid humor in here, but there's also a lot of adult-themed stuff in here, which equals a PG-13 rating. But anyway, humor. There's still fart jokes. There's still some kid jokes in there, but then there's also humor that just doesn't fit well. For example, there's this big ball in the final third act, and people are about to get clobbered. They're about to get turned into pills. They're about to just, shit's going to go down, right? But then all of a sudden, they like a dragon and like an ox or an octopus start like biting each other, and it totally turns to a tonal shift of like, oh, maybe we should run away because it's kind of a jokey thing. It does happen in that like 2 or 3 times in this movie where the tonal shift just really changes to something that's in a very serious moment of like, hey, are we gonna make it out alive? And they change it into something comedic. And at that point, I understand what you're trying to do with this movie, but the whole third act is very serious. And I don't think that tonal shift really works when it comes to that type of, storytelling. Just my opinion when it comes to that. But when it comes to the actual story, this is a lot more mature than the first one and a lot more unique because they aren't afraid to go to like Pompeii level of people dying. They ain't afraid of like saying, you know what, blood might be coming out. You know what, this might actually occur with some of these characters. Maybe a main character is going to die and make someone do something absolutely crazy. So the stakes are real for an animated feature and things do go down. So like I said, the third act, fantastic. I mean, action-packed, crazy. There is one action set piece I really didn't like because it kind of changed the style of the movie. We'll talk about that, though, a little bit later. But the first and second act is a lot more storytelling and a lot more getting to know the characters and their deceives and why they hate people and what is actually going on with the region. Because to get to this immortal status, there's like these 3 stages to get there. One's like these like beavers. Second one is like these leopards. And the third one is this rock mountain, which is very interesting. And then you realize why it's happening. You're like, okay, it's actually smart for the filmmaker to tie some characters into these teams or these levels to correlate with what is going to happen at the very end. Because something does happen at the very end where you're like, oh, is this one character going to die? And of course, you watch some post-credit scenes, something happens, so you're like, okay, I wonder where that story arc is going to go, and it's very fascinating when you think about it that way. The main character, of course, as a teenager, he's the only one that hasn't really gone to the quote-unquote demon form, and still I have the same issues with the first one, where it's like, you are causing a lot of this harm on yourself. You are, being a brat on purpose. You are defying your mother and father. You are doing this, this, and this. And of course, you just have that anger management issue, which is fine and all. But you would think that you would learn from the first movie, but he doesn't. And of course, something horrific happens, and he kind of goes into Goku, Saiyan. I don't know Dragon Ball Z, but that's what kind of remind me of, to go ape shit on the people. And still, there is that level where you're just like, bro, know your mistakes from your past, because you don't know what you get for the future. And I think that is a good story arc of them saying, hey, you don't know the future. You don't know who you're going to lose. So love who you need to love. And I do like that arc. Of course, the bad guys is a mix and mash of, like, good guys turning bad guys staying bad guys might be good. And I think I kind of like that arc where you expect things to happen at the end where people will come together. They semi-come together, but realize, at this moment in time, we'll do it. It's like the Attack on Titan where, hey, we'll get together now because there's a bigger bad guy, but when that bigger bad guy goes away, we're still going to be foes. And that is a very interesting dilemma where I've seen a lot of movies actually occur. So when dealing with that final battle I was talking about, it almost felt Demon Souls-ish, where it's like, oh, the bad guy. Then you're like, oh, the bad guy's done. Just K, there's a step up more. Oh, I killed him. JK, there's a bigger final battle. And you're like, oh my goodness. And that bigger final battle is a pretty badass looking battle. But they did switch some of the animation styles to look more like anime/manga. And I did, it was interesting to change it because that's the only time they decided to change it. And I was like, was that a good choice? I thought it was fine, but it did kind of take me out like, oh, why are we actually changing that? Oh, and overall, the animation. This is 6 years difference from the 2019 to now. Yes, the animation looks better. When there is background effects, and what I mean by that is where there's like volcanoes going off, dragons in the air, hurricanes happening, water effects. It is bombastic explosions. It is fantastic to look at. The face models still, it is a little bit of an upgrade, but it feels like they didn't spend that much money on face models. They focus more on like dragons, how the octopus looks, how the turtle looks, how the hair looks. But still, the face models is a little bit basic, and I understand why they did that. But at the same time, it's like, can I get more facial animations? Because it's almost like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Where you have the fantastic like creatures from the sea. And same thing with here, but the humans kind of are like, they're just there to be there. And like I said, that's not really a big nitpick, but I did notice that like there are two very different like CGI/animation styles going on of what they were doing. And I understand that because it's not just like the director's a bunch of people working for him. Like, okay, you're in charge of this scene, you're in charge of this scene, you're in charge of this scene. And some of them, I don't think they meshed as well as I wanted them to. But overall, Zhou 2 3D worth it. The movie itself is worth it. It is a step up, in my opinion, from the first one. Bigger stakes, bigger angst, bigger oh snap moments. And like I said, this is a pretty good PG-13 movie with a lot of, like I said, stakes again. A lot of people die. And it's like, oh snap moments. You're like, okay, yeah, this ain't PG no more. This ain't PG more. A couple of like bastards in this movie and pisses and everything like that. But there's still enough toilet humor for the kids. But again, if you haven't seen the first one, I don't think this is going to appeal a lot to the American audience. So Ni Zhao 2 will receive a 4 out of 5 with Futon, which equals at 80%. So see the critics' news scores gave this one. Critics in one of them, audience scores only 99. Darn it, I'm an idiot. 599%. The one critic is just giving it a positive, saying it's graceful as the DreamWorks animation Kung Fu Panda series, and it should appeal to the Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings people. Sure, I could see that, absolutely. I mean, Kung Fu Panda is damn old when you think about it. Anyway, like I said, I do think this can be a universal movie with the messaging and things that do occur. So, but is this a billion-dollar franchise? I don't know how it is, but congratulations for having 1 point. I mean, like I said, to me, it's not that hard to believe though. With having 1.3 billion in a country, it's like that means everyone saw the movie at least. I mean, of course, that's still ridiculous, but you know what I'm getting at, right? With the surcharges and things like that. I mean, to me, is Avatar a $2.7 billion movie? It shouldn't be. Not even close. Anyway, 99.80. Chase Hawk here at the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm this Futontopia. You Blue Futonians, take a watch from a great down. Watch this tape tomorrow, week from month, and year from every single freaking one of you. Peace, love, peace, love. And did you watch it in 3D? Let me know what you think down below.